Hello and welcome guys. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to work with arrays in C. We are going to learn how to declare, we are going to learn how to initialize and how to access elements of an array. Okay, so let's dive right in. What then is an array? An array is a variable that can store multiple values. So an array is like a storeroom. You can put a lot of things in it. Alright, so that is what an array is. So when you are talking of an array, this is an example of an array. This image here is an example of an array. So we have an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 storerooms. This array can store 8 values. Alright, and then what you see here is what we refer to as indices of an array. Indices of an array. Okay, so that is what an array is. Now, how do we declare arrays in C? How do we declare arrays in C? Let me write our include statement so that it makes it easy for us to work with. So in order to declare an array in C, what we do is state the data type, give the name we want for the array, and then open square brackets and indicate the array size. So this is the framework for an array in C. So let's give an example. So we can have age, and then call 4 values, and we have declared our array. So what have we done here? We have declared an array called age of data type double, and we are saying that this array age is going to be of size 4. That means it can hold up to 4 double values. Alright, so that is what we have done in this particular declaration. In order to access the elements of an array, we can only do that through is indices. Alright, through is indices. If you remember in the first image, I mentioned indices. So this is what we refer to as indices, the numbers on top of these store chambers. So this particular array has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so on top here, I have put the indices. You can decide to put it down, it doesn't matter. But it's just to give you an idea of how to access the elements of the array. Okay, so for example, if we have an array, let's say, let me comment this out. So for example, we have an array of type int, and then the name is age. It's going to take 3 values. Then we open our curly braces and declare our values there, and then we close it. So guys, this is how we initialize an array in C. That is just what I have done. We initialize an array by stating the data type, giving the name, then the size. Then we go ahead and provide the array elements, that is the array values. Okay, it is also possible to take user input and store in an array. We will get to that particular aspect. Now, another way of initializing an array is using the same one. Instead of indicating the array size, I can just go ahead and do this, and I have initialized my array in this particular form as well. Now, what we have to take care of is that when you initialize your array, you can also change the value of the elements. But how do you do that? What we want is that with this our currently initialized array, I'm going to use this second one. We want to change the value of index 1. So in order to do that, all we do is age and then call the index and indicate its new value, which is this. And that is how we change it, as simple as that. Okay, so you indicate the array name, the index you want changed, then you use the equal to operator to tell it that this is the new value I am providing for this particular element of the array. Now, it is also possible to take user input and store it in an array. And in the same vein, it is possible to print the elements of an array. So the first thing we are going to do is print the elements of an array. So I'm going to quickly clear this particular one and then create our function int main, and then open our parentheses and declare our array here int age, say 5, then 4, 7, 21, 23, 12, and then I close it. I can ask our system to print just one particular element of the array. So I'm going to use the format specifier, and then let me ask it to print it on a new line, and I now call the particular element I want to print. So if we remember, we have index of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I want it to print index 3. All right, so I do this and close it. Then I can just write my return statement, close that as well, and save this. So if I open my terminal now and compile my program, so I'm going to cd into my directory, clear this, and then run gcc compile. Let me give it a name, run it, and then say arrays.c is done, and then I just ask my program to run, and you see it has printed out 23. Let's confirm if that is true. In our array, we are asking it to print in the age array the index 3 of the array. So let's start 0, 1, 2, and 3. So rightly, our program printed the element at index 3, which is 23. So this is how we print an element of an array. All right, so now let's use a complete function to look at how we can take user input, store it in an array, and print it out. All right, so I'm going to clear this and minimize my window. We are going to work with user input, so we do not need this. Then now what do? We are going to say int scores and then give it a size. We want our score size to be 6. Then we are going to ask our user that kindly enter the scores. Good. So this particular line 2 is done. The next thing we are going to do is now take the input from the user and store in an array. So how do we do that? I am going to write a for loop in order to be able to take user input and store in an array. So for int a equal to 0, a less than 6, then a plus plus. Now what do I want it to do? I open my curly braces and I tell it take input from user, format specifier. Then what I want you to do is store those scores in the array called scores and close it as well. This for loop is also completed. The next thing I'm going to do is print showing scores of students. This, and then close it. And now I want to print the elements that the user enters. Now I'm going to print elements. Okay, so print elements. To print the elements of the array, int a equal to 0, a less than 6, a plus plus. Then I'm going to ask my system to print format specifier on a new line for each, and then I say scores a, and then I close it. With my return statement, our program is completely written. So let me minimize it for us to see how it looks like. Good. So a little bit. Yeah, I think this should be visible enough. So we have our main function, and then our data type for the array is integer. So we say int, and the name we are giving our array is scores, and we are telling our array that it can store up to only 6 values. Now, in this particular line of code, we've asked our user to enter the scores. And then when the user is entering the scores, we are saying that, remember, our array is supposed to be made up of integer values. So whenever you find those values, scan them and store them in an array called scores. And here we are asking our array to now print out the user input. Okay, so let's run it and see what it is going to do. So first of all, compile. I'm still using the old file, arrays.c. Compiled fully, and now let me open this properly so that we can see. The next thing is to run our xg file, and it says enter scores. So 23, 44, 45, 68, 90, 12, and then 3. All right, so we have 6 values. I press enter, and this is our array values: 23, 45, 68, 90, 12, and 3. So this is how we can take user input and store in an array, and then ask the program to print it out. So before I round off this particular tutorial, guys, there are a few things I'd like you to take into consideration. The first one is this: the index of arrays in C or any other programming language for that matter always begin at 0. And that is why you saw me using this. So if you look at this particular file I have here, I have 8 storerooms, but I am counting from 0. I didn't start from 1. So the index or the first index of an array is 0. The second thing you have to take into consideration is that if the size of an array is n, infinite, in order to access the last element, the n minus 1 index is used. Okay, so if for example I declare an array in this format, int age, and then I've not given any limit, I just input and then I give my scores. All right, if I want to access this last value, I am going to say print, then the data type, and then the array name n-1, and it is going to give me the last element of the array. Okay, now the third thing to take into consideration is this. Once you declare the size and type of your array, it cannot be changed. Once you declare the size and type of your array, it cannot be changed. And finally, you cannot access elements of an array outside its boundaries, okay, or its bounds. So here we said int scores, then the array size is 6. We can't access any other thing outside of 6 values when we are accessing the elements of the array. So you can't go and then, let's say, a particular part of your program for you. So maybe you declare something like printf, then you indicate your data format specifier, then you say age and give a value like 10, whereas your array is just taking only 6 values. So here is score and not age, so I'm going to say scores, so that it tallies. If you make this call, the system is going to give you an undefined value, so take note of that. Your arrays are specific to their size, so you cannot access an element that is outside of the boundary. So we have just looked at one-dimensional arrays in C language. We have what we call multi-dimensional arrays. That is going to be what we will cover in our subsequent tutorial. So thank you very much guys for watching. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to share our channel. And if you have any suggestions, if you have any comments, kindly drop them in the comment box below. That is all for now. Till our next tutorial, ciao.